It's 5 o'clock in Pirate Country, and it's time to get pumped up with the P-Man. Hit the door and hit the road. 94.3 The Game is going to get you home, and the P-Man's not holding back.
Yes! Yes! Pirates win! Pirates win!
Bring on the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
Holy mackerel! Oh, my goodness!
The flagship station of the ECU Pirates.
Okay, hi again, everybody. Patrick Johnson welcoming you in. It is the Thursday Patrick Johnson Show. We are scheduled to have John Feinstein with us. Don't know if that's going to materialize or not. But we are going to have the coach of the Conley Vikings on with us in just a little bit, and that is Nate Connor. So that is coming up. Philip the Ref Pilkington is here. And Pilk is going to be part of our pregame extravaganza coming your way. It's our Anson Belt and Buckle Pirate Game Day Countdown presented by Orthopedics East. That is coming your way Saturday, 12:30 here on 94.3 The Game and the IBX Media app. Pilk, we got East Carolina at Charlotte. I was talking to one of my really good friends today, and he and his wife are going. I think there's going to be a lot of purple and gold in the stands of the Jerry Richards Stadium on Saturday.
I think you're right, Patrick. There is going to be, and if there's any Pirate fans that still want to make it out, I was looking today at StubHub, I believe it was, and there were tickets still in the mid-50s, so not too expensive. I was a little worried that, it was going to be hundreds and hundreds of dollars now, as they only do have just north of 15,000 seats inside Jerry Richards Stadium, which is a very beautiful stadium, by the way, just a little small for FBS. In fact, it is the smallest in capacity size in FBS. But I know a handful of people that are making the trip, and obviously I know a handful of people on the enemy side as well, including my sister. So they will be on the wrong side of the banks there at Charlotte, behind the wrong bench.
So wait a minute. Your sister went to UNC or goes to UNC Charlotte?
She goes there, yeah.
Okay. Well, my brother got his undergrad and master's from UNCW. So when they play the Pirates in baseball or basketball, there's obviously that little rivalry there. And when he was in school there at UNCW is when they were going to NCAA tournaments in basketball and were really good and that kind of thing. So
yeah, my sister was not in school in the late 90s when Charlotte made, I think, 3 consecutive round of 32s. Nor was she in school in 77 when they made the Final Four.
When Cornbread Maxwell, friend of the show, led Charlotte to the Final Four.
And her 3 years there, this will be her 4th. They have not sniffed the tournament, and they've not won a lot of football games, and let's hope they don't win one on Saturday.
I look at this game. We're going to hear from the coordinators in our Pirate Report coming up in just a little bit. To me, and again, what are we basing this on? Their numbers are not good. Even their defensive numbers, which they can kind of hang their hat a little bit on defense, not good. Not good at all. So I think it's on paper, the Pirates would seem like the no-brainer to go in and win. I just wonder, can the offense be explosive enough? I think Charlotte's going to really struggle against ECU defensively.
The only tough thing that Blake Harrell's got right now is he's preparing for 3 quarterbacks and 3 different style quarterbacks. You've got the more mobile one if the starter does play. He's been practicing this week, but he, according to Coach Pogge, will be a game-time decision. He's more mobile, reminds you a little bit more of the Liberty quarterback. Then they've got one of their backups that's more of a game manager, hits the dink and dunk passes, gets the ball to the playmakers. Then they've got the Purdy kid who really throws the ball down the field well, but has really struggled with the underneath game and just the staying ahead of the chains kind of game. So if you're Blake Harrell, you've got to almost draw up 3 different game plans, and you may have to even switch on the fly. But I think that he will draw up things for these young quarterbacks that they will not be used to seeing. This defensive line will get pressure, and this defensive backs will do a good job on the back end, regardless of who's up there. And like you said, look, hey man, I'll line Blake Harrell's defense up against darn near anybody, right now, especially on this schedule. So. Like I said, it's going to be whether or not the offense can score, but historically this team's not great at home. They haven't won an FBS game at home in like 2 years.
And they had to really struggle to win the one this year. Had to come back and even hold off Gardner-Webb at the end. The other thing, unlike the Taylor Jackson scenario, Pilk, of a couple weeks ago where East Carolina had a former teammate that had been in the program on the other side of the field in the day and age of the portal, Omega Blake was here for maybe a partial cup of coffee in the spring. So I don't think there's going to be any of that, like it seemed to be the case with Jackson, where there was still some congeniality. There was a guy that went to bat with us, a guy went to battle with us, and we respect him kind of thing. In other words, friends still on the team. I'm not saying that Omega Blake didn't make any friends. He wasn't here long enough for us to know if he did. But just sort of the stories that we've gotten, he was not the most amiable of teammates.
Yeah, from what I've heard, there was some times the team would, get together, just hang out, and there were some times they would get together and a football may or may not be involved, and it seemed like neither side of what it was on was Omega willing to show up for some of these things. And the other thing is, obviously Blake Harrell changes up his calls, but, Taylor Jackson was able to kind of give a little more of a scouting report on the Pirate defense to the Liberty offense, whereas Omega Blake, like you said, was him here for a full cup of coffee, and John David Baker was still installing the very basics of a lot of things.
Well, they were installing everything at that point in the spring, and
Exactly.
they've whittled it down to some other stuff. So, I mean, that's I don't think there's going to be any advantage to Omega Blake's. I don't think. I could be wrong. But
I asked John David Baker yesterday, and he kind of brushed off the question. He did not seem too worried at all.
Oh, there you go. All right, speaking of JDB, let's hear from he and Coach Harrell on our Pirate Report now, the coordinators. Let's start with Blake Harrell, his thoughts on last week's roughing calls in the game at home against UTSA.
At the time, as soon as you see the yellow flag come out, I always, I get upset at the official first, then I get upset at the player, and then I get over it after a few seconds. But, I think they said both of those would have been clean, should have been clean. I think they said the long run, the fourth down there should have been a false start and a face mask, on their receiver grab Mike. But none of that matters. We just talked about it. In life, in football, play the next play. Move on, play the next play, make the best of it. So we got to keep doing that. I do like that we're getting pressure on the quarterback and affecting the game there. It may not show up in the stat categories of sacks, but I certainly think that's causing turnovers, causing him to be uncomfortable back there. I thought he was a really good quarterback coming in the game, and may have graded out, I don't know, PFF, his lowest grade of the year. And I would like to think we had something to do with that, just the pressure we put on him.
All right, and more from Blake Harrell on what went well on third and fourth down this past week.
The guys just kind of took focus on it throughout the week. Our players, when they put their mind to something, they can go at it. And I think they did a really good job of finishing the game, finishing third down, finishing the drive, and really attacking there. So I think just a mindset there. We got 22 of them, I think, and really successful on a bunch of them. So, and the ones that stand out in my mind are the ones we don't get. But, I think it's credit to our players just really locking in and getting after the quarterback, doing a good job in coverage. I thought for the first time all year, too, we did a good job in the secondary of, we call it the Tyson, PBUs, knocking that ball out, punching that ball out. That's the reason we call it Tyson, just punching it out. And we thought we did a good job of that in the secondary, because a punch out on third down is completion, a gain of 0, incompletion, we're off the field. And that's a great job winning third down by those young men.
More from Coach Harrell on the defense standing tall when facing a high volume of possessions in last week's fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think I read that afterwards, that we had so many possessions. But I don't think you ever think about that during the game. Just every possession you're out there, you're thinking about going and winning the game and making the play that's going to win the game, getting the third down stop to win the game, getting the fourth down stop to win the game. And that was really, when the run that popped out, that was really our mindset. They want to go for it on fourth down from their own 35, 8 minutes or whatever to go in the game. Hey, we're going to go win the game right here. And I think that's how we're going to call it. That's how we're going to play. We're going to play the chin out of our toes. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to fly around. You could say, oh, well, I should have made a call there to, maybe give up the first down, don't give up the home run. Let's go win the game. Let's play that way. Let's play to go win the game. Let's make calls to go win the game. Let's put our young men in positions to go win the game. All right? And I think if we'll do that continually for 4 quarters, we'll have a chance and opportunity to win the game at the end, which we did on Saturday.
Pirate Report ahead of ECU and Charlotte, and that's coming your way on Saturday at 3:30. Blake Harrell giving us the assessment 2 games into life without Savon Revel.
Lamp had a pick last week, and Nash been playing exceptionally well, and IBM's raised his game. I think the one thing, and you saw it with Zakai went out of the game last week, you're missing Vaughn, you're missing Zakai, but you see the guys around them, they just take the next step. They just take the next step. And we talk about every week and every day, hey, today's got to be the best day I've ever had at practice. This Saturday's got to be my best game. Well, why? Because it's the next one. We want to grow each and every single day, grow in each and every single game. I told my guys, if you peak game 2, game 3, game 4, then what are you going to do the rest of the year? You're going to be awful come November. But we want to grow each and every single day as football players, as young men in our communities, whatever it may be. But you've seen Lamp do that. You've seen Nash do that. And they're certainly talented, and you can see them growing more confidence every single snap. And they belong out there. They look like 2 starters out there. So just really proud of those 2 young men.
All right, and Pilk, you acknowledge this. This is having to get ready for 3 possible starting quarterbacks. Blake Harrell.
You always prepare for the starter, the backup, and talk about how guys can be different and how the offense may vary a little bit or not vary a little bit, what the strengths are, what the weaknesses are of each young man, whether it be quarterback, running back, receiver, whatever it may be. I think the Clark kid played for the first time in 2 years last week, so everybody's going to show up and play against us. We're ready for it. We'll be prepared for all 3, and all 3 are certainly good quarterbacks. I think all 3 do a job. They all present different. They're attacking in different ways, so we got to be prepared for it. But I think that's just part of college football. There's no injury report right now in college football like the NFL, and until we have that, you're always going to prepare for guys that might be hurt, might not be hurt, and you got to fully expect them to play and be healthy and be ready to go.
Jumping around a little bit here, but back to the injury front and Zakai Barker and how Coach Harrell thought Zakai Barker played after, or the linebackers played after Barker went down to the second.
Julian Davis, I said to the defense on Sunday, I said, you never know when your opportunity is going to come. I mean, Julian Davis goes into the game. He's our 3rd Mike. He plays 20 snaps. He probably hadn't played 5 snaps of defense in his career here, and goes in there, makes tackles, running around, making plays, and looks like it belongs. And you gain, not only does he gain more confidence in himself, his teammates, his coaches, everybody, and he's going to play a big role this week. Zakai may or may not be back, who knows. He's preparing like he is going to be, and we're going to prepare like he's going to be there and also have adjustments if he's not. And then Day-Day's played the most snaps he's played in the ball game. So just to see those 2 young men step up, and DJ as well, and fill the void there and go make plays when it matters, when the game's on the line in a tight ball game against a very good opponent, was not only good for me, I was proud of them, but just for themselves as well.
And I guess Barker's status, it's pretty tight-lipped over there when it comes to injuries. But I guess word is he has been back available for practice this week. Is that the word you've gotten, Pilk?
Yeah, I was told that he's been practicing, but doesn't quite look like he's practicing at full go.
Right.
Obviously, we don't know from the inside the program what they deem what, but from first 30 minutes of practice that Igo gets to go out there, he said, he's there.
So Zakai Barker, let's assume he's limited, or maybe just doesn't play. That does change things. I don't think from the standpoint of, and I'd be curious to know this. How did that work last week with Barker going out? Who got the headset in the helmet?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know.
And then who would wear
Wilson
it? Who would you? Because he's the one designated on defense as the guy who's got the communication device where he can hear hear Blake Harrell.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the big thing, I don't know if it was Mike Edwards, who's normally a starter,
right,
but is not that guy, or like I said, it's somebody who fills in for Zakai, whether it be Damian Wilson or Kevon Merrill or whoever may go in the game.
I almost would have to think it's somebody who is his backup, because I'm assuming you would have trained or practiced with that same set of circumstances.
I agree.
Could be wrong, but we'll find out more on that, hopefully. Last one for Blake Harrell here, scouting the UNC Charlotte defense.
I think they're a very good football team. I think their O-line is really good. I think solid. As soon as I turn on the tape, I noticed the twitch of those guards coming off the rock and doubling 3 techniques and doubling nose guards. And I said, ooh, that was the first thing that caught my attention. I think that center does a good job. Those 2 guards are really good. They're going to huddle. They're going to shift around, motion around, a lot of eye candy. Almost called an NFL-style offense where you're going to see them huddle every snap and then break out, and they're going to give you different pitchers and different looks. Obviously, the running backs is kind of by a stable back there. There's a bunch of them. They do a really good job getting downhill. Number 5, I think 220, 225 pounds. I like Zero back there. I think 21 is a kid from Charlotte there that's, they'll line him up out wide, bring him on the jet sweeps. He's got speed. He can make you miss. He's a return guy as well. Then the receivers. 8 catches everything around him. Omega, you talked about him, had a couple deep balls last week. He gets behind the secondary, so we got to stay on top of him. And then I think their tight ends may be the best room in our league.
All right, more here on our Pirate Report. Let's hear from John David Baker now on what went well in the second and third quarters against UTSA.
We finally started hitting some of those deep balls that we've been missing. We found ourselves in a couple one-on-one situations and, put a good ball in the air and the receivers went and made a play. And that's, when we're hitting those type of things, this is when this thing gets pretty fun. So just from an execution standpoint, it was probably the best, we've been for a couple quarters the last few games. But I was just, I was pleased with it because, like we said, it's been, you're frustrated because you missed some of those the last couple games, but to finally hit some in stride and hit them how we want is, was really encouraging.
More from Coach Baker on keeping the identity while chewing the clock in the fourth quarter with the lead.
The thing about us is you can't change, you can't change how we play as far as, we gotta be smart and we can't just go as fast as possible, but we also got to stay in rhythm. And, I felt like we got out of rhythm a little bit the other night. It starts with me. I got to do a better job of putting us in a better position to do some things better and do some things differently, and doing things that are going to allow us to have success, get a few more first downs. But it's kind of a balance. When you are a tempo team, you've got to lead, but we got to learn how to play with the lead because, we're going to be in plenty more games this season where it's going to be the fourth quarter and we're going to have a 1-score, 2-score lead, and we got to go find ways to continue to stay productive and go finish drives and put them in the end zone.
All right, and Coach Baker talked about getting more running backs, more touches.
No, we need to kind of get a little more balance back there and probably distribute some of those touches a little bit, and get those guys going, because the more successful we've been the last few years, we've always had 2 or 3 guys that have rolled, and it just allows those guys to stay fresh, especially late in the game like the other night when we need to go lean on them a little bit and run the football. It helps when you've been able to roll 2 or 3 backs throughout the game. That way they're all fresh.
All right, John David Baker on today's Pirate Report. Why the run struggled last week?
UTSA is really good up front, and we knew that going in. But those 2 guys in the middle are really hard to move. They've got great length, great size. It was a little bit of both, just never really gotten a rhythm early in the game as far as establishing, first downs early in a drive to kind of get tempo and get those big guys, because that's your only chance. When you get a couple 320-pounders in the middle, those guys are hard to move. And so you got to get those guys going early, try and wear them down a little bit, and we just weren't able to do that. And I think that's what led to some of the inconsistencies running it. Then we missed a few runs. We lost a few guys late. There was, after the catch by Yannick, we pop a run on the next one, and we're 1 guy away from scoring a touchdown there on the first play right after Yannick's catch. And so there's things like that happen throughout the game. But, at the end of the day, we gotta lock in and do a better job of finding more consistent runs. We gotta find a way to get more consistent 5, 6, 7, 8 yard runs than what we're getting right now.
All right, let's see here. More from John David Baker. He runs through the Charlotte defense.
Very similar to UTSA, very strong up front. They've got a couple guys in the interior D-line that are really talented. They've got really solid edge guys, some really good pass rush guys. Linebackers are solid. Back end, they've got a really talented corner. They do a good job. I think the DC does a really good job of mixing things up. You're never going to get the same – Same call many times in a row. And so we got our hands full for sure. We got to find a way to just make sure we've got a good game plan to make sure whatever we're getting, it can handle versus a lot of different things, because we're going to see a lot of different things. He'll be aggressive. He'll come after you. So we definitely got our hands full.
And JDB, on the importance of winning the middle 8 minutes of the game.
It's huge. Places I've been before, we've used that as one of our team goals, as the last 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. And, if you can win those 8 minutes, you have a great chance of winning the football game. And so for us to go in there and put a score on the board right before the end of the half, defense comes out, does a great job, gets a 3 and out, and then we go right down there and score. And that's a 14-point swing in the game. And it was huge. And it was something, the thing I was most proud of, it was something we harped on all week, and it was something we said to the players of, it's time. We found ourselves down, for the first time in the game in a few weeks, and it was like, okay, we need to respond. We need to go do to somebody what's been done to us the last couple of weeks. And I thought our guys responded. They came out in the second half the right way, and went and attacked those guys. And so that was another step in the right direction, and just the process of trying to build to where we want to get to as a unit and as a team.
And then the Pirates used a 7-man protection often last week, and Coach Baker discussed that.
It's part of what we do. There's certain schemes that we do that it's a part of, but it's an easy protection. But the other thing is, it shores up things, and there's certain things that we do offensively that it's a part of what we do, and it helps. It helps for sure, because you can keep those guys in and make sure we shore up the pocket and give us a clean pocket. Because as we've seen, if Jake's got a clean pocket, he's pretty good with the ball in his hand.
All right, that's today's Pirate Report. Thank you so much to our crew for getting that ready with Coach Harrell and Coach Baker. All right, a timeout, and when we come back here on this Thursday Patrick Johnson Show, we're going to have the head coach of the Conley Vikings in our high school focus this week. He is Nate Connor, and they've got a big game against Havelock tomorrow night. So, Nate Connor when we come back on the Patrick Johnson Show.
Download the new IBX Media app now and get the show for your ears and eyes.
Doesn't it look great on me?
This is the Patrick Johnson Show on 94.3 The Game.
High school football season rolls on, and we're talking to Nate Connor, the coach of the Conley Vikings. Vikes are coming off a win. They'll have J.H. Rose soon, but Havelock tomorrow, and we're going to talk about the 3-2 Vikes. They're 1-0 in the Big Carolina right now. Coach, great to have you back on the show. It's always enjoyable to catch up with you.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure to be on here. I'm such a fan of the show and listening, and it's great to be talking with you on here.
You guys got a good victory the other week, last week in fact, so 3 out of 4 for your team. Could probably make the case that you're pretty darn close to being 4-1. Going into this week. Give us the season through this point, 4 weeks of non-conference, and where you are after 1 week of conference play.
I'm really proud of our boys this past game, especially because we came off a bye week better. Really focused on things, took a hard look at some things where we're at. And, the nice thing about having it where we were, we feel like we play a challenging non-conference schedule to kind of see we got to go on. And then they came out and played really well on Friday against Northside. The boys have played great defense, and then maybe stalled on offense a little bit, or we played great offense this past week on Friday. And I think you're exactly right. The Northern Nash game got away from us a little bit, but I thought we played well. We didn't finish drives. We couldn't score in the red zone, but we moved the ball, and our defense did some good things. And then they had a really good rushing attack, a really good program, and the game just kind of got away from us as we stayed aggressive, and they were still able to do some things. I don't think the score was necessarily indicating that, and that's a credit to Northern Nash. But I thought our boys played hard and fought, and it was a really good learning experience as we go into conference play.
Yeah, Coach, how would you say they've adapted to sort of life without Isaiah Crumpler? I know you've had a time or two, maybe I would say this is probably the third time, or at least the second time where you're coming off like a really special generational kind of player, and you got to kind of get to life without it. You did have CJ following Holton, so there wasn't a huge drop off there.
Yeah, we were during that time.
Yeah.
Holton was phenomenal, and those two together was really just really special. And CJ really took the reins over that next year. And then there was a little bit of a lull, not to say we didn't have other great players,
right. Yeah.
But you didn't have that just straight superstar, quote unquote, that everybody just knows. And then Isaiah, I tell you where he's left such an impact with these boys is, you see the things he does on the field, but his leadership and the way he went to work every single day and made things important and completely embodied what we did with our team has continued to carry on. It's allowed some leadership to happen with some of these other guys. It's been now their opportunity to step in because Isaiah's gone. And I think he should be very proud of that as he's away from here. That still lives on, and we're really proud of that. But then I've been excited to see some of the leadership from our guys. And I think when you talk about the wide receiver position, we've gotten a lot of production out of a young man named Christian Hawley, who's played for us the past couple of years, but this has kind of been his opportunity to step in there and show that. And he's done a fantastic job so far this spring. And I think it helps our quarterback, Samari Cabell, is another year older and have that experience with him. And now he can kind of take the reins, understanding exactly what we do. And we figured out what he does well. And kind of distribute that ball out to other people.
Tomorrow, and look, the conference, there are no nights off, especially for you guys, the rest of the conference slate. Havelock comes in, and they're uber talented. When you look at them on film, what jumps off, aside from that great talent that they have?
Well, they have talent on all sides and all levels. To me, though, the strength of their team is their offensive and defensive line that allows all those other guys to do it. I think the best probably overall position group is their defensive line. They play 4 down linemen. They get multiple, and they have one very athletic young man who's a big-time player in their program. That's kind of one of those guys we just talked about who can stand up and play in space as a linebacker but put his hand on the ground and play D-line. They have a younger guy who's a junior that as a senior everybody will talk about that's gotten a couple of Division I offers. So I think the strength of their team is their defensive line. Their offensive line doesn't necessarily have that quote-unquote player like that. They have more of the skill players but the offensive line is very solid, which allows their athletic quarterback to move around and be comfortable and distribute to those guys that if you let them run around long enough, they're going to find a way to get open. And I think number 7, Johnny Williams, I believe is his last name. Be honest, I think he's one of the best players in Eastern North Carolina. He's just a phenomenal special player that plays the game. Last year he played quarterback for him because they needed help there and just changed the game in a lot of ways there. And he's doing some special things at wide receiver. So they can hit you in a lot of ways. They have good running game, have athletic quarterback. They have multiple receivers, not just Johnny, but they have a couple other guys that you can't just focus on him. And then they have a talented defensive line that allows those secondary guys, they're better cover guys because of the pressure they get.
We're talking to Conley head coach Nate Connor, and Coach, is it close to 10 years there as the head coach?
This is my 10th season as the head coach. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it really is. The program has come quite a ways since the days of where you were working for Coach Pascal and then have been the head coach. So do you feel like that you maybe have certainly there's a culture, but that you've been able to maybe build on the culture and because there are expectations and there's fabric in the program now?
Absolutely. I think our boys, like you said, you have that tradition that was here last year, and then the younger guys get their opportunity, and it's their responsibility to carry that forward. And we're always evaluating every year. I'm very blessed with a wonderful coaching staff that allows us to really focus in and evaluate what we can do to get better, ways we need to challenge ourselves, what we did wrong this past season and trying to improvement. So I think, where I always look back about it, I kind of was like, you talk about those Holton and CJs, and I was like, special years with those players. I'd love to be the coach I am now and have the culture I have within the program now. I feel like that when I coached the team back then, because we've just been growing every year with that stuff, but our kids have been very receptive. I think the biggest challenge is sometimes these guys come in and it's too comfortable. We have to keep them hungry in the ways of they don't have to go through some of the struggle some of those early guys did because some of that's already laid. And I think that's the challenge when you've been somewhere for a longer time. You're not coming in with new, fresh stuff. You have to make sure you're continuing to do what the needs of the program are and make sure those guys that come in and don't know any different understand that.
When you look, and obviously you don't want to look past tomorrow. I mean, you've got a fantastic team coming in, but then you've got Rose the following week over there, and that's if you don't have the guys' attention, which I mean I know you do, you'll have it next week for sure, right?
There's no doubt about that. That's what sports. You watch Alabama, Georgia on TV and the SEC. What was cool about seeing them be able to play then, and I know we're not Alabama and Georgia, but it's that caliber of game. It's the one people always look forward to, and it's a lot of fun to compete in and have that passion on both sides. It's a special week to be a part of, and you want them all to be important. But there's no doubt that one has a little more juice to it, just because of all those things. But every week in this conference, you better bring it, because you look at New Bern was able to pull out, and with that same kind of game with Rose the week before, I went with New Bern and Havelock, and you can watch on the film, there's just a lot of passion, and New Bern kind of willed themselves to win because of that in that game, and got Havelock a little out of character. And I think that happens. And then then Jacksonville comes and beats New Bern. So we've got to do it every single week, but that one will be a special one next week.
And you don't need me to tell you, but then you got Jacksonville, then you go to New Bern, and then you finish up at South Central. I mean, again, there's no off nights in this league in football. It's maybe, if it's not the best one in the state, it's one of them, and it's certainly I think the most competitive one in the East, week in, week out. But when you look at that to finish the year, where there'll probably be a lot on the line, and you've got South Central, that has a special factor to it as well.
Absolutely. So it's a fun way to end the season, but every week you've got to be ready and be prepared, and that's fun though. That's what we look forward to as coaches. It's been fun to get into this conference schedule, because in the off season, it's really what you develop your team around. These are the opponents we know that we're going to play. This is the way we really feel like they're going to do their teams, and we want to develop our team to be able to win those games, and you play non-conference for that. And you cap it all off with, look, South Central's having a great, successful season this year. Coach Cherry's been doing good things, and they had a very close one with J.H. Rose last Friday, and they're 5-1. So that could be a really special game, which we've had. You go back to some of those years, they came in undefeated. We had one loss, and playing for a conference championship that last week is really a special evening.
Well, certainly a big one tomorrow against Havelock at home. A couple more home games for Conley, including against the Rams tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Coach, as far as the points of emphasis for your team going into the game, what will be some of the things that you'll remind them of before you get out there and host your team at home?
Be who we are. We're playing their young men, and their young men are special. They have some good players, but none of them are perfect. And I think if we are our best and play our responsibilities the best ways we can, we're going to give ourselves a great opportunity and great chance. I think that's the biggest thing. We ain't got to do anything that we're not capable of. We ain't got to come out and have some kind of amazing, miraculous thing. We've just got to do the things we do and prepare for extremely well, with great fundamentals and discipline, and all the phases, special teams as well.
Well, Nate, good luck to you. Always great to talk to you, and we'll catch up with you really soon.
Thanks a lot, Patrick. I'm a huge fan, and go Vikings.
You ready for this?
Oh, I'm very ready. Okay, ready?
You ready? Streaming to the world at 943thegame.com. This is the Patrick Johnson Show. Now, in all his glory, here's the P-Man.
All right, Logan Zone coming up at the top of the hour. Coach Logan will be with us tomorrow, plus Joe Sampson is scheduled to be with us. I think we'll just say scheduled to be with us from now on. John Feinstein was to join us today, but apparently we got crossed up with him. The book that John is putting out is called 5 Banners Inside the Duke Dynasty. Of course, it's about Coach K and the Duke basketball program, and this is in a way to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Duke. So I did want to ask John about the start that both Army and Navy are off to, respectively. John's written books about that, but maybe they'll continue to win, and we'll be able to talk about that when we reschedule it, hopefully for next week. So that's something we'll work on. All right, I got some exciting news for you. For a limited time only, my friends over at East Carolina Weight Loss are offering a free body composition analysis with each free consultation. So that's a $197 value for free. The new testing will give you a lot of great information about your BMI, your body fat percentage, your metabolic age, all kinds of numbers like that. In fact, I had somebody asking me about that today. Do they measure that sort of thing at EC Weight Loss? I said, absolutely. It'll help you better understand where you are now and where you want to be with your weight loss and health goals. That's going on now at East Carolina Weight Loss. And you can check it out there. That's where it is happening. Let's see here. Was looking for the phone number. I'll get that to you here in just a second, but that is a tremendous thing that they are doing now, and you can go for the free no obligation consultation, and that will be what you can go for there. Just go to EastCarolinaWeightLoss.com. You can enter my name as having told you to go, and that is online, EastCarolinaWeightLoss.com. Let's see. Do I have a phone number? I don't want to not give the phone number. Here we go, Pilk. Always on top of it. The phone number to call for East Carolina Weight Loss, 252-496-3610, 252-496-3610. If you go ahead and get signed up with East Carolina Weight Loss, let's say today or Monday or tomorrow, by the time you get to the end of the year, you'll already have hit your goals. Pilk, what's the big thing most people talk about with their New Year's resolution?
The most common New Year's resolution is to lose weight.
You could go ahead and be there. You don't have to set a resolution. And you can go a little crazy on Thanksgiving and Christmas and be fine. If you go ahead and sign up now, you can lose the weight. I've lost 60 pounds. I'm resetting right now, Pilk. So today's the Big Apple day because you reset on the Big Apple. Not the Apple phone, iPhone. I'm talking the Apple. Do you eat apples?
See, you need to clarify it's not the Apple phone because you said the word Big Apple, and I thought you were talking about New York City. So
No.
It's not the city.
It's not the city.
The phone.
It's just a day full of apples. You eat 6 apples today.
What kind of apples are you?
Granny Smith, baby.
Oh, yes. There's only one right answer.
Yes, and that's Granny Smith. Couple things of note. And I didn't know this was necessarily a thing, Pilk. You follow your favorite team more in and out than I do. But I was not under the impression that there was any possibility that Deontay Johnson would be traded. Had that come up here, and was that being discussed?
I don't know. I think that was a little media buzz. Now, obviously, Dave Canales he was asked about it yesterday. He had to do the coach speak and say, no, we're not thinking about that. But look, he's a pretty good player. But I think, when the Panthers signed him going into the offseason, they knew they weren't going to be a playoff contender. Now, they could have signed him hoping that he was going to be used as trade bait. But right now, Davante Adams will be the first one to fall when it comes to wide receiver trades. So once the Davante Adams thing happens, then maybe you can go down the list. And Deontay Johnson could be on that list because when you look, the Panthers are not a playoff contender. We know that. He's a pretty solid player. But I was even talking to a Cowboys fan yesterday. I was like, hey, how about you guys trade for Davante, and then we'll give you Chuba Hubbard because I really like Chuba Hubbard, but he's not going to be playing in a playoff game anytime soon here. Maybe we can get some draft capital from the Cowgirls, who could very easily be 2-3 after this week if they lose Sunday night in Pittsburgh. It's going to be a tough one in the Steel City. Steelers are a pretty good football team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and the Cowboys are continuing to be hit by that injury bug. We reported on it yesterday. They will be without Brandon Cooks. A few more injuries to the defense. No Micah Parsons this week. Obviously, they've been banged up at the corner position all season long, so if they can get their crap together, we got a running back we'll deal to them.
The other thing that you talked about before we went on with the show today was on the secondary market, the tickets for the Panthers-Bears game are the ones that are going for the highest right now on the secondary market for the NFL. And So you said, well, that's surprising compared to the Pittsburgh Dallas. Well, you just kind of answered it there. It's in Pittsburgh, where the fans, as annoying as the Pittsburgh fans are, they really love their football team.
That's true. They don't sell their tickets.
They don't sell their tickets. And it's Sunday night in Pittsburgh against the Cowboys. They're not selling those tickets.
No, they're not. Unfortunately, though, I have to say, Patrick, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that there's not as much hype leading into this game as I wish there was. I miss the Steelers-Cowboys rivalry. I miss them hating each other.
Yeah.
I know plenty of people that grew up in this area, that grew up Redskin fans, but in the 70s kind of became closet Steelers
Would root
fans
for the Steelers.
because
that
they
was
were
their
always
AFC team.
Yeah, because they were always playing the Cowboys.
Right.
They didn't want to like the Raiders. I mean, who wanted to like the Raiders?
Nobody.
The Dolphins were starting to take. The Dolphins were good at the same time as the Redskins there in the late '60s and early '70s. So they had already faced off.
Might
in
have beat
Super
them
Bowl
in the Super Bowl.
They beat
right?
them in
Yeah.
Super Bowl
yeah.
VII. Yeah. So again, we don't be a Dolphins fan. So they all kind of adopted the Steelers there through the Steel Curtain days until the Redskins got good again right after the Steel Curtain and after the Cowboys kind of fell off and Danny White became the QB and all that.
Admittedly, I do not follow the NBA regular season and even the MLB regular season as I probably would like to. Try as I have, it's just not my jam. I like the playoffs. I really like the playoffs in baseball. Love the playoffs in baseball, actually. Really like Pilkington the off season. The hot stove, as it were, in baseball, the NBA off season. Those are wired, as far as I'm concerned. Load sharing, bloated contracts in MLB, tired. Off season and the hot stove, wired. And so I like to keep. So I'm really keeping up with what my Cubbies are planning on doing, because Craig Counsell has said we've got to get better talent on the roster. We've got to go be a buyer in free agency. We've got to be aggressive in that aspect, especially if you're going to have a guy like Counsell who's got chops managing. He's one. Now, on paper, people are very upset, I'm sure, that it's – and by people, I mean the executives. Of course, Rob Manfred hates the sport he's the commissioner over. So the Padres, Tigers, and Royals advance on. So 3 sweeps. It's great that Milwaukee and New York have gone, because that's a pressure game that'll be played where a winner moves on. I really like the Tigers story. They were totally for dead in July. Not even close.
5 games below 500 in late July.
And like 10 out.
Yeah.
And just went crazy. And they beat the Astros. We talked about that yesterday. People hate the Astros, and they should. Could there be a team more disappointing this year than the Orioles, though, Pilk?
No, a lot of people had them at earliest getting bumped in the championship series. A lot of people had them going to the World Series. And this is a team, despite being young, I think everybody thought, hey, you know what? They got in the playoffs last year, got their rear ends handed to them. They got over that. Everybody kind of has to, first time you make the playoffs, you seem to kind of get pummeled, no matter really the sport, when you're a young team. And, hey, they're ready to go out there and they're ready to win playoff games. They'll at least win the DS. Well, they're not in the DS, and it was just an implosion over the last 2 months of the season. They were hot going into the All-Star break, and it was just the bats went cold. There was a time where they had traded Connor Norby something like 20 to 25 days before, and he had more home runs as a Marlin, despite spending half of his time in AAA during that stint, than the entire Orioles infield did. The hitting went bad. The pitching was, I won't want to say bad. It was just inconsistent. And frustrating time to be a Baltimore Orioles fan right now. But I do think with the new ownership and the young talent, the future is bright. But I know they don't want to hear that here on Thursday, October 3rd, 2024. So they're pretty hacked off with the way things went last night.
After getting bounced by the Royals, who are another team I think you can kind of get excited about. I like this Royals team. I like their pitching. I like what they do out of the bullpen. 16 wildcard teams have made it to the World Series, Pilk, including 2 last year. Obviously, one of them winning, and that's the Rangers. Out of the wildcard teams, and let's just say both of them tonight, the Mets and Milwaukee, since they're both wild card teams and still kicking. Of the wild card teams, who do you think has the best shot right now to go to the World Series?
I'm going to go San Diego. Out of all the wild card teams, they're the team I think has probably played the best since the All-Star break, excluding the Tigers, obviously, but I just don't know if the Tigers are ready yet. A lot of these
But they're hot right now.
They're hot right now.
They're hot right now.
Hot, but a lot of playoff experience in that San Diego organization. And, hey, they have their toughest test coming up with the Dodgers. That series starts Saturday. I think if they do get past the Dodgers in the DS, I do think they end up making it. I really think that series, the winner of that series, will go. You don't want to count out Mark Miller's Phillies ever, but I really like the winner of that series to advance past the winner of the other three teams.
Yeah, again, that's just who we think has the best chance to get there. And you're right, they would knock off Miller's Phillies, which would be fine by me because that would mean we'd be in full Miller meltdown mode.
Oh, no, but he would melt down, and then he'd be like, but the NBA season's here. The
Right.
76ers are going to be good.
The NHL's starting.
Only for him to, stomp in this minute the Celtics take game one from the Sixers in, the second round. He's like, I get my hopes up every year. Dadgummit. I can't believe I believe in this team every year, and he starts throwing stuff because that's what happens in this.
I wonder if he's excited about his Pitt Panthers.
He is ecstatic
in Chapel Hill
about
this weekend.
Pick Panthers, and they're 4-0, and Mac Brown's team stinks, and I'm pulling for my boy Mark Miller this weekend. Go Pitt, baby.
Let me, while we're here, give another shout-out to our guy Peter Francia, Dr. Peter Francia at ECU. Political science, and, of course, the director of the ECU poll. They just had out a poll that showed the latest political races, the presidential race, the race in the gubernatorial race. That's got some national play, and Peter's a big sports fan and a listener of this show, so we love Peter Francia. And so he got some play nationally with the ECU poll that came out.
There you go. Shout out. Hopefully, keep politics. Hopefully for him, he gets a lot of acknowledgement and does a good job, and he's a friend of the show, fan of the show. So best of luck. I hope it goes well and he gets some national.
And I'm a fan of Peter Francia, so that's that there. So shout out to Peter. All right, thanks to Nate Connor for being with us today. Conley coach, good luck to the Vikes tomorrow. They'll have a tough one with Havelock, but Coach Connor has them playing okay going into conference play, actually playing pretty well, and coming off a win last week after the open week following their non-conference, which was challenging. And we will be back with you tomorrow, our normal time of 5 o'clock. Coach Logan and Joey Football, Joe Sampson, will be with us tomorrow. We'll do a little Hold My Beer even. We'll see you in the morning on Talk of the Town, and back here for the Patrick Johnson Show tomorrow at 5, ahead of the P-Man doing ECU volleyball.